folks, welcome back to another episode of Mayhem in the Midsouth. Our episode today, Bloodbath at Bragg. Now, Fort Bragg, which is now called Fort Liberty, it's a military installation in North Carolina, United States Army. Now, it is allegedly one of the largest military installations in the world by population, somewhere over 50,000 military personnel. It sits there right outside of Fayetteville. Now, it covers 251 miles, and there is a whole passel of Army groups that are assigned to that base. I think specifically the one most everybody associates with Fort Bragg would be the 82nd Airborne. It's February 17th, 1970. Our suspect, he's staying on his in-base residence with his wife, Colette, age 26, and two daughters, Kristen Jean, who was 2, and Kimberly, who was 5. Now, the suspect's wife was pregnant. She was carrying a male child. Now, 3:42 in the morning, dispatchers there on the base, they get a call from the suspect saying he's been stabbed. Gives them the address, 544 Castle Drive. Now, the military police arrive, which this is something nice about the old days. Military base, you actually had military police. So they make the scene. Now, this house it's 6 rooms, 1-story brick. Now, the front door was locked, so they had to go around to the back door to get in. Now, when he got inside, they found that Colette, Kimberly, and Kristen were all dead, and they were all in their respective bedrooms. Now, our suspect was found laying next to his wife. He was alive but wounded. So they load him up on a gurney, and he's taken to the base hospital. Now, the wife, she was found there on the floor in the bedroom, and she had multiple stab wounds with a knife and an ice pick. Now, her husband, our suspect, his pajama top was draped across her chest. Now, on the headboard of the bed was the word pig in blood. Now, the MPs, they found Kimberly in her bed. She died of blunt trauma and stab wounds. As was Kristen, the 2-year-old. She's found in her bed, stabbed and with the knife and with an ice pick. Now, our suspect, his wounds were very much less severe than the family's, which of course is going to raise your antenna if you're CID, which is the military investigators. The biggest threat inside that house would be the male, our suspect, you would think. And you would think he'd receive most of the damage. But now he had some cuts and some bruises, and the surgeon said that the wound that the suspect had was clean, small, and sharp. Now, one injury had caused one of his lungs to partially collapse. Now, he stayed in hospital about a week and was released. Now, this is what the suspect's telling investigators. He says he fell asleep on the couch there in the living room, and he woke up because he heard screaming coming from Colette and Kimberly. So he ran to go see what was going on, and he was jumped by 3 armed male intruders. Now, there was a 4th suspect in this story he's telling. It's a female white floppy hat. She supposedly had a candle that she had lit, and she was saying, "Acid is groovy, kill the pigs." The 3 males attack him with the club and the ice pick. 2 male whites and a male black. Now, according to our suspect, while he's heroically fighting off these attackers, his pajama tops pulled up over his head, and he used it to ward off the thrust from the ice pick. I guess it's that military training. Now, finally, he's overwhelmed by the attackers, and he's knocked unconscious in the living room. Now, according to our suspect, he says he wakes up, the house is totally quiet. He doesn't hear any screams from his wife or his oldest daughter. He goes in there, finds his wife, he tries to revive her. She's already dead. He then covered his wife's chest area with his torn pajama top. And then he checked on the daughters. He said he tried to resuscitate each of the children, and he was unsuccessful. Now, he said he did stop in the bathroom to check on his own wounds, and then he washed his hands while he was in the bathroom. Then he called the military police. Now, according to CID, they listened to that story and they didn't believe it. Now, they had already looked over the physical evidence, which that's what you need to do before you go and interview your primary suspect. That way, when you hear his story, you know if they're lying or not. Because if physical evidence doesn't match up to the story, then you know you got a problem. Now, in their mind, the living room where the suspect's claiming that he had fought for his life against these three armed assailants, said there was little signs of a struggle. Said other than an overturned coffee table on a plant, that was it. Now, fibers from the suspect's torn pajama top, they weren't found in the living room where he's claiming he had this fight. Now, they found the fibers of his pajama top under the body of Colette, his wife, and in Kimberly and Kristen's bedrooms. And one fiber was found under little Kristen's fingernail. Now, the Army doctor there at Womack Army Hospital, he said that the wife had died as a result of blood loss, multiple stab wounds to the area of the upper chest. And also there was signs of blunt trauma. Now, during their check of the scene, they had found the ice pick and the kitchen knife. They eventually found a piece of wood. They determined it was one of the bed slats underneath one of the kids' beds, I believe. So now, this crime scene where on the headboard where the word pig was written, the tips of surgical gloves were found beneath that headboard. Now, those tips of surgical gloves happened to match a supply of surgical gloves that the suspect kept in the kitchen. Now, what helped on this investigation is that all members of the family had different blood types. So that makes it easier for CID to figure out who was where and what. Now, this is what they said happened according to the crime scene. So they said it started in the master bedroom where the wife struck the suspect in the forehead with a hairbrush. Then they said the suspect retaliated by beating her with a piece of lumber. Now, they're theorizing during this beating that Kimberly came into the room and that the suspect struck her in the head, possibly by accident. The reason they know this is because there was of the blood typing. Hers was found there in the doorway of the master bedroom. So now they believe the suspect thought, okay, I've done mortally wounded one of my daughters. So he carries her back into the bed and he murders her, or finishes the job. Now, the reason investigators are saying that he took her back in her bed and then killed her, they said they found her blood on his pajama top. Now, the suspect claims that he hadn't been wearing the pajama top when he went to her bedroom to try to rescue her. So now he's got the wife wounded in one bed. He just killed the one daughter, and now he's going to finish off the other daughter. So now the suspect's going to the second daughter's bedroom, Kristen. He's going to kill her. Now, before he can do anything about it, his wife runs in there and lays across the daughter to try to protect her. Now, the reason CID says that is because the wife's blood was found on Kristen's bed covers and on the wall of the room. So evidently, the wife had enough strength to stumble into the bedroom and try to protect her daughter. So now, according to CID, after the suspect finishes killing the daughter, Kristen, he wrapped the wife's body in a sheet and carried it back to the bedroom. The reason they say that is because there was a bloody footprint, and it was his wife's blood there coming out of the bedroom. Now, CID's theory is that suspect had read an article about the Manson family, and because that article in a magazine was found in the living room, and they're saying he used a scalpel blade from the hallway closet where he keeps those because he's a doctor. Now they're saying after he's stabbed himself, he put on surgical gloves, went to the master bedroom, and wrote the word pig on the headboard. They're saying he wasn't done yet, so that pajama top of his that he claimed he'd put over his wife to cover up her chest area, CID says he laid the pajama top over top of his wife's chest and he stabbed her with the ice pick multiple times. CID says then he used the phone to call for the ambulance, and he threw the weapons out in the backyard, and he came back in and laid down by his wife. So less than a month later, the Army formally charges the suspect with the murder of his family. Now, they had an Article 32 hearing, which that's the military's version of a preliminary hearing, probable cause hearing. Now, somehow or another, he's able to beat this. And I think it has to do with the fact he's an Army officer and he's a doctor. I don't know if the military was trying to protect themselves from this unseemly incident or what was going on. But anyways, it's all thrown out. Our suspect gets an honorable discharge, and he goes back to his home state of New York. Now, he doesn't stay there just a real long time. He goes out to California, and he's working as an emergency room physician. And now he's gotten so cocky now that he's beat this charge. He even gets on the Dick Cavett show, and he's on the show and he's cracking jokes about the shoddy investigation into the death of his family. Wife, 2 daughters, and oh, by the way, the unborn male child. So obviously that didn't go over too well. Now the stepfather of the deceased wife, he initially believed his son-in-law, and then he decided he didn't believe him. So now he is raising all kinds of cane about the fact that this murderer is running around loose, working, having a good time, and his stepdaughter's dead, his grandkids are dead. So CID, they turned it over to the Justice Department, and then of course it got lost in the maze. So now finally, 24th of January 1975, a grand jury in North Carolina, they indict him for 3 counts of murder. So our suspect gets arrested out in California, and he's brought back to the great state of North Carolina. Federal civilian trial, since he's now a civilian. Now his lawyers claim that they can't do this, it's double jeopardy, and they violated the speedy trial doctrine. So that gets thrown around for a while, and the appeals court agrees, and they want to throw it out. prosecutors, they appeal it Supreme Court. Supreme Court goes 8-0 saying, no, that's a bunch of garbage. We need to go to trial. So now the trial lasted July 16th to August 29th, 1979 in the great state of North Carolina. Suspects convicted of 1 count of first-degree murder on the daughter Kristen, 2 counts of second-degree murder regarding his wife, Colette, and Kimberly. So he's given 3 life sentences to be served consecutively, which is what you want. That means he has to serve 1 sentence, then serve the next and the next, one right after the other. Now later on in the 90s, they had some DNA because there was defense attorneys were claiming they had found a woman and her boyfriend who were part of this killing cult. Well, the DNA didn't pan out because it didn't match this zonked out crazy woman or her boyfriend. In fact, other than that, the DNA didn't really say anything they didn't already know. Our suspect, he's still in prison. He's in a federal prison, I believe, in Maryland. He may have already died by now. I hope so.